If someone told you there was a fish alive today that existed before the first dinosaur hatched, that can grow longer than a car and heavier than a horse, that wears a suit of bony armor across its body like something from the Triassic, that can live for over a century, and that is being driven to extinction because humans pay thousands of dollars per pound for its eggs, you would assume it was the plot of a documentary. It is. The sturgeon is all of those things, and it has been all of those things for roughly 200 million years. Its lineage appeared during the early Jurassic, when Pangaea was still one continent, and the Atlantic Ocean did not yet exist. It swam through the Cretaceous alongside mosasaurs and plesiosaurs. It survived the asteroid that ended the age of dinosaurs 66 million years ago. It survived every ice age, every warming period, every oceanic upheaval, every mass extinction event that the planet threw at complex life since the Mesozoic. There are 27 species of sturgeon alive today. 23 of them are in danger of extinction, not because of an asteroid, not because of a climate shift, because of caviar. Start with the animal itself, because it does not look like anything else swimming in freshwater today. The sturgeon's body is elongated and heavy, built like a submarine wrapped in medieval armor. Instead of scales, its skin is lined with 5 rows of bony plates called scutes, hard, ridged, and sharp-edged, running from head to tail like the riveted plating on a warship. These scutes are not decorative. They are functional armor, inherited from ancestors that needed protection in oceans ruled by predators far larger than anything alive today. The skeleton beneath them is almost entirely cartilage, not bone, a feature it shares with sharks but arrived at independently. The skull and pectoral fins retain some bone, but the rest of the frame is flexible and light, supporting a body that in some species can exceed 20 feet in length and 3,000 pounds in weight. The beluga sturgeon, huso, is the largest freshwater fish on Earth. The record specimen, caught in 1827, measured 23 feet 7 inches and weighed 3,463 pounds. That is larger than some species of whale. Today, a beluga sturgeon that size does not exist. The largest individuals were killed decades ago. What remains are smaller, younger fish in a population that has been cut by over 90% since the 1980s. The sturgeon's head is where the design becomes truly strange. The snout is long, flat, and pointed, projecting forward like the bow of a ship. Underneath it, 4 slender, whisker-like organs called barbels hang in front of the mouth. These barbels are covered in taste buds and tactile receptors, and they serve as the sturgeon's primary means of finding food. The animal drags them along the riverbed or seafloor, tasting and feeling the sediment for worms, crustaceans, mollusks, and small fish. Its eyesight is poor. It does not need to see. It reads the bottom like a blind man reads Braille. The mouth itself is one of the most unusual structures in the fish world. It is toothless, positioned on the underside of the head, and it functions like a vacuum. When the barbels detect prey, the mouth protrudes downward, extends outward, and generates suction powerful enough to pull organisms directly out of the substrate. The sturgeon does not bite. It inhales. This feeding mechanism is so effective and so energy efficient that it has remained essentially unchanged for over 100 million years. It works in rivers, lakes, estuaries, and coastal oceans. It works in warm water and near freezing water. It works for a 2-foot juvenile and a 20-foot adult. The design is not primitive. It is perfected. The sturgeon's life cycle is where the mathematics of extinction become terrifyingly clear. These are among the slowest maturing and longest-lived fish on the planet. A female beluga sturgeon does not reach sexual maturity until she is between 15 and 25 years old. Once mature, she does not spawn every year. She spawns once every 4 to 8 years. When she does spawn, she migrates upstream from the sea into freshwater rivers, seeking out specific stretches of gravel and rock with the right current, the right temperature, and the right oxygen levels. She releases hundreds of thousands of sticky eggs that adhere to the river bottom. A male releases milt at the same time. The fertilized eggs take days to hatch, and the juveniles remain in freshwater for 1 to 6 years before migrating to the ocean or to a large lake. The adult female then returns to the sea and does not breed again for years. This means that a single female sturgeon may reproduce only a handful of times in a life that can exceed 100 years. Every mature female is irreplaceable in the short term. Kill one, and you have removed a breeding animal that took 2 decades to develop and that will not be replaced for 2 more. This is the biological reality that the caviar industry has been crashing into for over a century. Caviar is not a byproduct. The fish must be killed to harvest it. A female sturgeon is caught, her belly is cut open, and the eggs are removed, salted, and packed. The rest of the animal is sometimes used for meat, but usually discarded. The eggs of a single large beluga sturgeon can be worth tens of thousands of dollars on the legal market and far more on the black market. Beluga caviar has been sold for up to $3,000 per pound in the West, and at those prices, the incentive to poach is overwhelming. In the Caspian Sea, which historically held the largest sturgeon populations on Earth, the collapse has been catastrophic. Between the late 1970s and the early 2000s, beluga sturgeon populations declined by over 90%. 4 out of 5 remaining fish were males because fishermen preferentially kept the females for their eggs. The largest and oldest specimens, the ones that carried the most eggs and contributed the most to reproduction, were targeted first. They are gone. The genetic wealth they represented is gone with them. In 2005, the United States banned the import of beluga caviar from the Caspian Sea under the Endangered Species Act. In 2006, the United Nations halted the worldwide trade in wild sturgeon products from the Caspian region entirely. Ichthyologist Ellen Pickage, who led much of the scientific advocacy, described the crisis in terms that went beyond a single species. "This is not a species or a genus," she said. "It is a whole order that has been almost wiped out. And it is not just the Caspian. The pattern repeats everywhere sturgeon exist. In the Danube River, Europe's last major wild sturgeon habitat, a 2023 study published in Current Biology tested commercial caviar products from Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, and Ukraine. Half of the samples were illegal. Some did not even contain sturgeon. The study confirmed what conservationists had long suspected, that the international labeling system designed to prevent illegal trade was being actively circumvented, and that poaching was continuing at a scale capable of eliminating the remaining wild populations. Researchers estimate that at least 1/3 of all sturgeon species will be extinct within the next 20 years. The beluga sturgeon, the largest freshwater fish on Earth, the animal that has been swimming in these rivers since the Jurassic, could be functionally extinct in the wild by 2050. The sturgeon once ranged across the entire northern hemisphere. Fossils have been found on every continent except Antarctica and Australia. In North America, Atlantic sturgeon filled the rivers of the eastern seaboard from the Gulf of Mexico to Newfoundland. White sturgeon ruled the Columbia River and the waterways of the Pacific coast, growing to over 1,500 pounds. In Russia, the Volga River alone supported sturgeon runs so dense that the fish were a staple of the national diet. Caviar was not always a luxury. In 19th century America, sturgeon eggs were so abundant they were served for free in bars, the way peanuts are today. The salt was meant to make patrons thirsty enough to buy more beer. By 1910, overfishing had made sturgeon nearly extinct in American waters, and caviar became what it is now, a symbol of wealth, rarity, and excess. The pattern is always the same: abundance, exploitation, collapse, then a scramble to protect what remains. The sturgeon has lived through this cycle in every country it has inhabited. There is something else about the sturgeon that most people do not know. It jumps. Atlantic sturgeon, fish that can weigh 800 pounds and measure 16 feet, have been documented launching their entire bodies out of the water and crashing back down with enough force to injure boaters. The behavior is not fully understood. Some researchers believe jumps loosen parasites. Others suggest the behavior serves as a form of group communication. the splash signaling location and presence to other sturgeon in murky, dark bottom environments where visibility is essentially zero. Whatever the reason, the image itself is startling. A creature that looks like it belongs in the Triassic, armored and massive and ancient, suddenly erupting from a river surface in a burst of power that seems impossible for an animal that spends most of its life vacuuming the bottom of a riverbed. The sturgeon is not slow because it is incapable of speed. It is slow because it does not need to be fast. It has never needed to be fast. For 200 million years, its strategy has been patience, efficiency, and endurance. Move slowly, eat what the bottom provides, reproduce infrequently, but over a very long life. Wear armor and grow large enough that almost nothing can threaten you. It is a strategy so effective that it outlasted the dinosaurs, the marine reptiles, the ice ages, and the rise and fall of every predator that ever shared its waters. It did not outlast us. The sturgeon is a mirror, not a metaphor for what extinction looks like, but for what greed looks like when it encounters something that cannot defend itself against it. A 200-million-year-old animal that wears armor and grows to the size of a great white shark is being erased from the planet because its unfertilized eggs taste good on toast. The bounty on the thylacine was 1 pound. The price on the sturgeon is $3,000 per pound of eggs. The mechanism is identical. Assign a value to a piece of the animal, offer that value to anyone willing to kill it, and wait. The market will do the rest. The sturgeon did not fail. It survived everything this planet produced for 200 million years. It was not prepared for the one thing the planet had never produced before, an animal that would kill it, not for food, not for territory, not for survival, but for a luxury it did not need. The armor was never built for that. If this is the kind of story that matters to you, subscribe. There are more of them to tell.